Good day everyone, it's Has here, and today we'll talk about the elemental hunting horn trees, the ones that I recommend to use and grind out, and the ones that are best performing meta elemental horns. Sunbreak has finally brought back elemental weapons to Monster Hunter, as it should be, at least in my opinion. I always thought elemental should be the best performing style of hunting, especially if properly built against a monster that's weak against it, or weak against a specific element, considering you have to grind more and spend more effort into countering your hunts. But that's just me, and at least it makes me very happy that it's back. But enough babbling, you're all interested which trees you should spend your time farming out, and I've done several tests in the training ground with similar conditions using a very basic set of active skills that use these skills with Silkbind Shockwave constantly active. The skills are Weakness Exploit 3, Attack Boost 4, and Critical Boost 3. I left Critical Eye out since in most builds it's not being used, but this also means I had to do a lot more attempts to have reliable results. I used the core combos for the tests using Crush into Chord, Crush into Overhead Crush, and into Chord, and also with Magnificent Trio. Now let's see those weapons. Starting with the Fire Element, my first recommended tree is the Engineath Hunting Horn tree. When it comes to horns, we have to consider not only the usual attack, sharpness, affinity, and elemental values, but also the songs a weapon uses. For this reason, we have quite a few horns that are very valuable, especially if we consider multiplayer and helping other hunters. But solo, it's a bit more limited, as you'll also see in these recommendations. The Engineath horn, while having a bit lower elemental value and a 50% affinity penalty, it has an excellent attack value of 330 with the attack up song on top of it. And as we know, hunting horn sound waves are not affected by affinity, so flat damage is the most valuable thing for hunting horns. They are more about raw with a little bit of elemental damage sprinkled in there. It also has very little bit of purple sharpness, but that can be countered with a good protective polish build, making this a very powerful fire hunting horn. I also mentioned there are good co-op horns, and an alternative I would recommend is the Rathian tree with a very respectable 340 attack and 29 fire, though only wide sharpness. It's still a very good fire horn for those who love playing online, but also if you prefer a more defensive approach to your hunts, as the Rathian horn uses both defense up and divine protection songs, excellent for safer hunt both online and solo. For water, the situation is a bit worse, as I found the category a little bit lackluster for me personally. My clear winner for damage is the Royal Ludroth Echoing Drothwar Plus, with its 320 attack, 50 water, with wide sharpness and decent slots. I wish this horn had better songs, but it's still quite comfortable weapon to use. The Tetranodon horn still deserves mention here, as it had pretty decent results, as it has a nice 330 attack and an attack up melody, but the problem lies with its much lower sharpness that requires decoration investment, and it loses out on the bonus elemental decorations versus the Ludroth horn. The other water horns are still very much worth to look at, like the Mizutsune horn, especially for co-op, as they all offer very fun songs to help your fellow hunters, which is definitely my favorite redeeming quality of the hunting horn, that no matter the stats, doesn't matter which one is the best weapon for raw or elemental, sometimes a good song can be worth so much more than a stronger weapon. Now for Ice Element, we have an absolute monster of a weapon, the Auroracanth Hunting Horn with 320 attack and 68 ice damage on it, which is incredible. On top of that, we have decent wide sharpness and amazing decoration slots. This one again is definitely an all-out damage horn, as its songs are also not necessarily the best out there, though if you're using a Dereliction build, which is currently pretty much the best, health regeneration can be quite handy. For a comfortable alternative, a lot of horn users' favorite also performed really well, which is the Harmonic Resonance Lunagaron horn. It has decent stats and comfortable purple sharpness, which you don't have to bother with much, as you have an outstanding new song, the Sharpness Regeneration, on it, making you the most popular guy in a lot of online rooms, while still performing quite well damage-wise. And here comes the Thunder Element, and this one is a really tough one in a close matchup. Our two contenders are the Keizu Hunting Horn and the Narva Skytremor Rumble. They are very close in performance, and frankly, extremely depend on what kind of build you are going for, as the Keizu horn can go full out damage, but with even 1 point of handicraft and protective polish, the Narva horn is right there too. In the end, my tests favored the Keizu horn. It has the benefit of much better skill build freedom over Narva, and comfort-wise, you also have to stress less about your sharpness. Additionally, with Skytram or Rumble requiring a bit more utility skills, I found the Keizu horn able to pull ahead more consistently thanks to the bonus skills it's able to acquire. For co-op, my favorite Thundern horn on the other hand is the Furious Rajang horn. While definitely not even close for the strongest horn spot, it has both earplugs and attack and affinity up songs with Sonic Wave, making it a useful horn online. And finally, we have the Dragon Element tree, and spoiler alert just in case if you haven't beaten the final boss yet, honestly, I had some trouble doing the tests here as the two best Dragon Horn contenders are in quite a weird position, and they are the Valstrax horn and the final boss horn. Now normally here, I would say the Geismagorm horn is really looking good, and is definitely a strong horn with a specific build in mind. Maybe if you go performance mode instead of echo mode and you don't like using the new Silkbind Shockwave, but frankly, both of those are pretty much the meta in Sunbreak. But if you know how the hunting horns are somewhat built now, they are already lacking a bit of affinity as shockwaves don't benefit from them, so slotting in Critical Eye is not exactly the best jewel to consider, so direct hits have a bit more affinity missing there. Now while the Abyssal Hollow has a really nice stat and songs, that minus 20% affinity really hurts, not to mention it's missing jewel slots. On the other hand, the Crimson Clearwing has significantly lower raw value with 51 Dragon Element on it, but instead of affinity penalty, it actually has a bonus affinity song, and you don't have to worry about your sharpness at all. In the end, I decided to choose between them using a Dereliction build, which is pretty much the go-to set for hunting horns, where Valstrax horn definitely pulls ahead with its higher elemental damage. Now the Dragon Element is really tough as there are other also very well performing horns, such as the Ligurgorian, the Shagaru Megala tree, and the Dragon Challow from the Dahabra tree. They are very worth to farm out and take a look at to see which dragon horn you prefer for your playstyle. Not to mention the Shagaru Megala horn just sounds awesome. Overall, I think there is nothing to complain about as a hunting horn player as there are so many amazing horns out there to choose from, and some elements are straight up hard to pick, which I'm very happy about. And also as I mentioned, while there might be horns that have amazing stats or perform really well theoretically or on paper, some horns might be a lot more uncomfortable to use even though they are the best because of sharpness or the songs or decorations. It might be harder to make builds for them. So consider also which horn fits your playstyle, or do you like to play more solo or online? Because maybe then online, it's better to consider another horn with better songs to actually support the others. And also keep in mind, these are just my opinions according to the tests I've done, and different horns might work for different builds, so if you have any tips or suggestions, or if you have done your own tests, feel free to share it with us in the comments. But that's pretty much it with my recommended elemental horns video right now. If anything changes or I have new numbers or information, I will post updates as soon as I can, but for now, these are the horns I recommend personally. Thank you very much for all the support on my Monster Hunter videos and look forward to more, especially horn videos, as I'm really enjoying the weapon, especially in Sunbreak. Thank you for watching, and take care everyone. Bye bye.